The Kansas sun hung low over the prairie, painting everything the color of dried blood. Wade McAllister sat on his porch, a glass of whiskey untouched in his weathered hand. 47 years old now, hair more silver than brown, his body still straight but marked by decades of hard labor and harder memories. Beside him sat his son Tommy, 25 years old, married to Moon's adopted niece from the reservation, a beautiful Apache woman named Emily, with kind eyes and quiet strength. Their 3-year-old boy, Jacob, played in the dirt yard with a wooden knife Wade had carved for him last winter. The evening breeze carried the smell of autumn grass and distant rain. Tommy shifted in his chair, the wood creaking under his weight. "Pa," he said quietly, "Jacob asked me yesterday about his grandmother, about Emily's mother." Wade's fingers tightened slightly on the glass. He didn't drink from it, never did anymore. Just held it, feeling the weight, remembering other weights he'd carried. "What did you tell him?" Wade's voice was rough, like stones grinding together. "I told him about a woman named Moon, an Apache woman who saved my life when I was 8 years old, who taught me to see people for who they really are, not what they look like." Tommy paused, watching his son play. "But I didn't tell him everything, because some parts of the story are just yours and mine." Wade was quiet for a long time. In the distance, a hawk circled, hunting. Life and death, always circling. 17 years, Wade finally said. "Feels like yesterday sometimes." August of 1878, the day I found her hanging there, the day I started trying to make amends for the past. Tommy leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Tell me again, Pa, one last time, so I can tell Jacob when he's old enough to understand." Wade looked at the horizon, eyes distant, seeing things Tommy couldn't see, ghosts that never quite left. "All right, son, but you need to understand something. This isn't a story about heroes. It's a story about guilt and forgiveness. About how a man who's done terrible things can find his way back to being human." He took a breath and his voice changed, became younger somehow, carrying the weight of 17 years backward in time. "It all started on the hottest day that summer, when you came running home, face white as bleached bone, and said 4 words that changed everything." Wade's eyes closed, remembering. "Pa, there's someone dead out there." The memory pulled him under like deep water. August 15th, 1878. The temperature had been climbing since dawn, reaching 107 degrees by noon. Wade McAllister worked on the north fence line, replacing rotted posts with fresh pine. His son Tommy, 8 years old then, helped hold the wire steady while Wade hammered. They worked in near silence. Wade had never been good with words, not since Margaret died 3 years before. The smallpox had taken her in 4 days. Fast and cruel, like most things in Kansas. 15 head of cattle grazed in the near pasture. 3 horses stood in the shade of the barn. Chickens scratched in the yard. It was a small operation, barely enough to keep them fed and clothed. But it was honest work, and after 5 years as a Texas Ranger, Wade had wanted nothing more than honest work. He drove another nail home, the sound sharp in the still air. Inside his head, thoughts moved like slow cattle. 17 years a rancher now, every day the same. Wake, work, sleep. Tommy growing up without a mother. Wade teaching him practical things. How to mend fence, how to ride, how to shoot. But not how to laugh, not how to hope. Maybe because Wade himself had forgotten those things. 5 years since Margaret died. 5 years of nightmares about the Apache village. About the screaming children. About blood on his hands that no amount of washing could remove. He'd thought time would blur the memories. Make them softer, easier to carry. But it hadn't worked that way. Time had only sharpened them, made them cut deeper. The sound of running footsteps pulled him from his thoughts. Tommy came over the ridge at a dead run, face pale, arms pumping. "Pa! Pie!" Wade straightened, hammer still in hand. Something cold touched his spine. Tommy never ran like that unless something was badly wrong. "What is it?" The boy reached him, breathing hard, words tumbling out too fast. "There's someone out there, hanging from a wooden frame. Pa, they're dead." Wade's hand tightened on the hammer handle. "Where?" "Westfield, near Little Creek." Tommy grabbed his father's arm. "We have to help them." "Go to the house," Wade said, his voice steady despite the ice forming in his chest. "Lock the door. Don't come out until I get back. But Pa, what if they're still alive? What if... Tommy, Wade's tone cut through the boy's panic. Do what I tell you. Now. The boy hesitated, then ran for the house. Wade walked to where his horse Dusty stood tied to the fence. The chestnut gelding was 12 years old, steady and reliable. Wade checked his Winchester rifle, made sure it was loaded, and swung into the saddle. The ride took 15 minutes, long enough for Wade's mind to cycle through possibilities. Lynching, bandits, bounty hunters, some poor soul on the wrong side of the law, or the wrong side of someone's hatred. He'd seen it before. The frontier was still wild in 1878, still violent. Justice often came at the end of a rope rather than in a courtroom. As he crested the low hill overlooking Little Creek, he saw it. A wooden frame stood in the middle of the field, 4 posts driven into the hard earth, one crossbeam stretched between them. Simple construction, hasty, built for a single purpose. And hanging from that crossbeam, rope thick as a man's wrist, hung a body. Upside down, head toward the earth. Wade's stomach turned. He dismounted slowly, leaving the rifle in its saddle scabbard. His hand moved to the Colt, 45 on his hip, not drawing it, just resting there. Careful, cautious. The heat pressed down like a physical weight. No wind, no sound except the buzz of flies. He walked closer. The body was a woman. Apache, he could tell from the deerskin dress, the beadwork, the long black hair now hanging straight down, tips touching the dusty ground. Her skin was the color of copper, where it wasn't covered in bruises and dried blood, whip marks, dozens of them. Across her back, her arms, her legs. Whoever had done this had taken their time. Vultures circled high above. Crows sat on the crossbeam, waiting. Wade's hands started to shake. The memory hit him like a physical blow. Another hot day, another field. The smell of gunpowder and blood, bodies on the ground, Apache bodies, women, children, old men who tried to protect them. And him standing there, 21 years old, Texas Ranger badge on his chest, gun in his hand, doing nothing, just watching. No, he whispered, not again. He moved forward, forcing his legs to work despite the memories trying to pull him under. Up close, he could see details. The rope was manila hemp, 3/4 of an inch thick, tied with a standard lasso knot. The wooden frame was fresh pine, still oozing sap, thrown together quickly. Boot prints in the dirt, size 11, distinctive worn left heel. And the woman. God, the woman. Her face was swollen, lips cracked and bleeding from dehydration. Her skin was badly sunburned where it wasn't lacerated. She'd been here at least 2 days, maybe 3. The sun had cooked her, the whip had flayed her, and whoever had done this had left her to die slow. Wade reached out, hand trembling, and placed 2 fingers against her neck. For a moment, nothing. Then faint as a whisper, a pulse. Jesus Christ, he breathed. You're alive! He pulled his knife, a Bowie, 6-inch blade, elk antler handle. His father had given it to him 20 years ago. It had never failed him. Listen, he said, not knowing if she could hear. I'm going to cut you down. You are going to fall. I'll try to catch you. No response. She hung there, unconscious or close to it. Wade positioned himself, held the rope taut, and slashed upward. The knife was sharp. The rope was thick, but not thick enough. It parted with a sound like a gunshot. She fell. Wade caught her, or tried to. Her weight surprised him. Not heavy, maybe 145 pounds, but solid. Muscle. She was taller than most women, maybe 5'8", and despite the injuries, despite days without food or water, her body was strong. They both went down in the dust. For a moment, Wade just lay there. The woman collapsed across his chest, both of them breathing hard. Then her eyes opened, brown, almost black, unfocused, confused but aware. She saw his face, saw his pale skin, saw the color of his eyes. She tried to speak. The words came out in Apache, rough and broken. Inda, she whispered. White man. Then more words. Shta she. Kill me. Dojhida. Please, Wade didn't speak Apache, but he understood the tone, the resignation, the pain that went deeper than physical wounds. I'm not going to kill you, he said quietly. I'm going to help. She tried to push him away. Too weak, her arms trembled with the effort. No, she managed in English. You lie. All Inda lie. Her eyes were already closing again, consciousness slipping away. Wade got to his feet, lifting her carefully. She weighed less than he'd thought. Dehydration, blood loss, days without food. Her body was eating itself to survive. He carried her to Dusty. The horse snorted, eyes rolling white at the smell of blood. Wade spoke softly, calming him. Getting her onto the horse was harder than cutting her down. She couldn't help. Her body was limp, boneless. Wade finally draped her across the front of the saddle, stomach down, and climbed up behind her. He held her steady with one arm, the other hand on the reins. The ride back took 35 minutes. Walking speed, careful not to jostle her too much. The sun beat down without mercy. Wade gave her water from his canteen, small sips, letting it trickle between her cracked lips. Most of it ran down her chin, but some went in. She mumbled things in Apache, dreaming or delirious. Sometimes she cried. Sometimes she went silent for so long. Wade thought she'd died until he felt the faint rise and fall of her breathing. His mind wouldn't be still. Margaret had died in his arms. 5 years ago, he'd held her hand while the fever burned her from the inside out. Watched her fade. Been helpless to stop it. He couldn't save his wife. But maybe he could save this woman. Maybe this was God giving him a chance to balance the scales. A chance to do one thing right. The ranch came into view. Tommy stood at the window, face pressed to the glass. When he saw them coming, he ran outside. Pa, she's alive? Barely. Wade's voice was grim. Clear my bed, get clean water, and bring your mother's medical kit. Tommy froze, staring at the woman. Pa, she's an Indian. Wade looked at his son, really looked at him. Saw an 8-year-old boy learning what it meant to be a man, learning what his father valued, what he stood for. She's a human being, Tommy, and she's dying. Now do what I told you. The boy ran. Wade dismounted, lifted the woman down. She was heavier than she looked. Or maybe he was just tired. Getting old. 30 wasn't young anymore. Not out here. He carried her inside. The cabin was small. One main room with a fireplace, a kitchen area, and 2 smaller rooms branching off. His bedroom. Tommy's bedroom. That was it. He laid her on his bed, the only clean bed. It felt strange putting a stranger in the place where he'd slept beside Margaret, where Margaret had died. But there was no other choice. Tommy brought water in a basin. The medical kit Margaret had used during the war, when she'd been a nurse. Before they'd met, before Kansas, before everything. Wade washed his hands. Then he started working. First, water. He lifted her head gently, brought a spoon to her lips. 1 spoonful every 5 minutes. If she drank too fast, she'd vomit, lose what little fluid she had. 8 ounces over 40 minutes, slow, patient. While the water worked, he cleaned her wounds. He'd learned basic medicine from Margaret. How to clean wounds, set broken bones, treat fever. Not but better than nothing. Out here you learned or you buried people. He heated water on the stove until it boiled, then let it cool. Tore clean strips from an old bedsheet. Poured whiskey over his hands, over the cloth. Kentucky bourbon, 80 proof. Good for drinking. Better for disinfecting. Then he started cleaning the whip marks. There were more than 40. 40 separate times someone had raised a whip and brought it down across her flesh. 40 times someone had chosen to hurt her. Wade worked slowly, carefully. Each time he touched a wound, she flinched, even unconscious. But she didn't scream, didn't cry out. Just small gasps of pain. Tough as nails, he muttered. Tommy stood in the doorway watching. Pa, who did this to her? Don't know, son. She going to be okay? Wade paused, looking at the woman's face. Swollen, burned, marked by suffering. I don't know, he said honestly, but I'm going to try my damnedest. He applied salve to the wounds. Margaret's recipe, lard, beeswax, calendula flowers. It smelled like herbs and summers long past. He covered the worst lacerations with clean cloth, wrapping her back and arms. Her fever was high. He could feel it radiating from her skin. No thermometer to measure it, but his hand said it was dangerous, 104. maybe higher. He made willow bark tea, the closest thing to aspirin they had, made her drink it a little at a time, put cool cloths on her forehead, changed them every 10 minutes. Hours passed, the sun set. The room grew dark except for the lamp on the bedside table. Tommy fell asleep in the corner, curled up in a blanket. Wade sat in a chair beside the bed, keeping watch. The woman thrashed sometimes, caught in fever dreams. She spoke in Apache, words Wade couldn't understand. But he heard the tone, fear, grief, loss. Sha'e, she cried out once, then something that sounded like a name. Gray Wolf. She wept without waking. Wade sat there in the dark, listening to her pain, and thought about choices. He'd made terrible choices 5 years ago, stood by while innocent people died, done nothing when doing something might have made a difference. Every night since, he'd seen their faces. The old woman who'd tried to protect a child. The young man who'd raised his hands in surrender before the bullets cut him down. The children who'd run, screaming. He'd told himself it wasn't his fault. He'd been following orders. He'd been young. He hadn't known. But deep down, he knew the truth. He'd been a coward. He'd valued his career, his reputation, his safety more than he'd valued their lives. And he'd paid for it. Every day, every night. Paid in nightmares and guilt, in the slow erosion of the man he'd wanted to be. Margaret had known. She'd never said it directly, but she'd known. Had seen it in his eyes, the weight he carried, the thing he couldn't talk about. She told him once, near the end, when the fever was making her philosophical, Wade, we don't judge people by the color of their skin. We judge them by what's in their hearts. He'd forgotten that. Or maybe he'd never really learned it. But sitting here now, watching this Apache woman fight for her life, he remembered. She was a person. Someone's daughter. Maybe someone's sister. Someone's friend. She had hopes, fears, dreams. A life that mattered. And someone had tried to take all that away. Had tried to kill her in the most cruel way possible. Wade wouldn't let that stand. Dawn came slowly, light creeping through the window like something cautious. The woman's eyes opened, clear for the first time. Aware. She looked around, saw the unfamiliar room, the white man's furniture, the white man sitting beside her bed. Fear flickered across her face. She tried to sit up. Pain shot through her back. He could see it in the way her whole body tensed, the way her breath caught. Wade leaned forward. Easy, don't move. You're hurt pretty bad. She turned her head, looked at him directly. Her eyes were sharp despite the pain. Assessing, judging. Inda, she said. White man. My name is Wade. Wade McAllister. This is my home. You're safe here. She studied him for a long moment. Then she spoke, her English rough but clear. Safe? No place safe for Apache. You're safe here, Wade said again. I promise. A bitter smile touched her cracked lips. Promise, white man promise. She laughed, then winced. White man promise many things. White man lie many times. Wade didn't argue. She was right. Promises from white men to Indians weren't worth the breath they took to speak. Not all of us, he said quietly. Enough of you. Silence fell between them. Not hostile exactly, just wary. Two people on opposite sides of a war they hadn't started but couldn't escape. Can you tell me your name? Wade asked. She looked at him for a long time, making a decision. Trust or no trust. Finally she spoke. My people call me Naichee. It means walks in moonlight. That's beautiful. Wade's voice was soft. Can I call you Moon, if Naichee is too difficult for my tongue? Another long pause, then a small nod. Moon, yes. Moon is easier for white tongue. Moon, Wade repeated. My name is Wade, and that's my son, Tommy. He gestured to the corner where the boy was just waking up. Tommy sat up, rubbing his eyes, then saw Moon was awake. He waved shyly. Moon's expression softened slightly. Something in her eyes changed when she looked at the child. Boy, she said. How old? 8, Wade answered. Pain crossed her face. Real pain, deeper than the physical wounds. My brother, he ate too, before they kill him. Wade felt something cold settle in his stomach. Before, who killed him? Moon closed her eyes. When she spoke again, her voice was flat. reciting facts, keeping emotion at bay. 5 winters ago, summer of 1873, Texas Rangers attack village, near Rio Grande. The cold in Wade's stomach turned to ice. They say we steal cattle, Moon continued, but we not steal. We trade for cattle. Legal trade. Still they come. With fire, with guns. She opened her eyes, looking past Wade, seeing something he couldn't see. Kill my father, Chief Gray Wolf. Kill my mother, Morning Star. Kill little brother, so many others. Her voice cracked. I only survive because I gathering medicine plants. I hear gunfire, run back. But too late, everyone dead. Or dying. Wade couldn't breathe. His chest felt like someone had placed a boulder on it. I find little bear, she whispered. My brother, arrow in his shoulder, but alive. I carry him 3 days to reservation. He live, but village gone, family gone. She looked at Wade, then really looked at him, and something in his face must have shown. Some horror, some recognition. What? She demanded. You know this place? Wade's mouth was dry, his hands were shaking. Rio Grande, 1873, Chief Gray Wolf. Moon's body went rigid. What you say? The words felt like they were being torn from him. I was there. For a moment, neither of them moved. The silence was absolute. Then Moon spoke, and her voice was ice. What you mean, you there? Wade forced himself to meet her eyes, to not look away. She deserved that much, the truth, eye to eye. I was a Texas Ranger then. We got orders. They said an Apache raiding party had killed white settlers, stolen cattle. We rode to find them. He swallowed hard. When we got to the village, your father came out, Chief Gray Wolf. He tried to talk, tried to explain. But our captain didn't want to listen. He gave the order to fire. The silence was worse than screaming. Moon stared at him. Her whole body was shaking now, not from weakness, from rage, from grief, 5 years old, suddenly fresh again. You, she breathed. You there. You kill my family. I didn't shoot your father, Wade said, the words coming faster now, desperate. I didn't shoot your mother or brother, but I didn't stop it either. I just stood there. I saw what we were doing, saw that they weren't fighting back, saw the women and children, and I did nothing. He leaned forward, hands clasped between his knees. When it was over, I saw what we'd done, really saw it. Not warriors, not raiders, just families, people trying to live, and we'd killed them for nothing. Moon's hand moved to the bedside table, to the Bowie knife Wade had left there. Her fingers closed around the handle. Wade didn't move to stop her, didn't reach for his gun, just sat there, watching her grip the knife, watching her hand shake. If you want to kill me, he said quietly, I understand. I've thought about doing it myself more than once. I deserve it. Moon raised the knife. The blade caught the lamplight. You deserve die, she said. Her voice was steady now, cold and certain. Yes, Wade agreed. I do. But if you kill me, my son loses his father, the way you lost yours, the way he lost his mother 3 years ago. Moon's hand trembled. The knife wavered. I can't undo what happened, and Wade continued. Can't bring your family back. Can't take away 5 years of pain. But maybe I can do one thing right. I can keep you alive. I can stand between you and whoever did this to you. I can be the man I should have been 5 years ago. Tommy's voice came from the doorway, small and frightened. Please don't hurt my pa. Moon looked at the boy, 8 years old, the same age Little Bear had been. Innocent eyes, scared but trying to be brave. She remembered Little Bear's face, how he'd looked at her when she found him, arrow in his shoulder surrounded by dead bodies. The way he'd cried, not from a pain but from fear and loss. Slowly, slowly, she lowered the knife. I not kill you, she said finally. Her voice was rough. Not because you deserve mercy, but because boy not deserve lose father. She dropped the knife. It clattered on the wooden table. But I not forgive, never forgive. Wade nodded. I'm not asking for forgiveness, just a chance to help. Moon looked at him with those dark eyes, seeing right through him. Why you tell truth? You could lie, I never know. Because you deserve the truth, and because I'm tired of lying to myself. They sat in silence. Outside, a rooster crowed. Life going on, indifferent to human pain. Who do this to me? Moon asked. Who hang me like animal? I don't know, but I'll find out. Was Sheriff Brennan and his brother Cole. Wade felt like he'd been punched. The sheriff? Hank Brennan did this to you? Yes. Why, what did you do? Moon's hand moved to her clothing. She pulled out something small, hidden in the folds of her dress. A piece of paper, folded many times, dirty and torn. She handed it to Wade. He unfolded it carefully. It was a map, partial, incomplete, but enough to see. A section of the Kansas Territory. Mountains marked, rivers, and an X with words beside it in rough handwriting. Gold mine, Gray Wolf claim. Wade looked up at Moon. Your father had a gold mine? He found it 7 years ago, small mine, but good gold. He used gold to trade for food, for blankets, for medicine. Keep our people alive when reservation give us nothing. She touched the map with one finger. Brennan find out. Come to village 5 years ago. Demand father show him mine. Father refuse. Say mine belong to Apache people. White man already take our land. Not take our gold too. Her voice hardened. So Brennan kill him. Not in battle. Murder. Shot him in back. Took map from his body. Wade felt sick. And you got the map back. I spent 5 years looking. Follow Brennan. Watch him. Wait. Then 1 week ago, I sneak into his office. Find map in his desk. Take it. And he caught you. His brother Cole catch me. They beat me. Whip me. Brennan say I steal his property. I tell him it my father's property. He just laugh. Say dead Indians have no property. Then he hang me. Say I die slow. Say vultures eat me. Say no one care about dead Apache woman. Wade's jaw was tight. He was wrong about that last part. Moon looked at him. Something in her expression shifted. Not forgiveness, but maybe the beginning of something. Belief perhaps, or hope. Why you care? She asked. You kill my people. Now you save me. Wade was quiet for a long time. How to explain guilt to someone who'd suffered because of it. How to make her understand that he'd been dying inside for 5 years. That every night he saw those faces, heard those screams. Because I can't save the people I killed, he said finally. Can't bring them back. Can't undo what I did. But maybe if I save you, maybe if I do one thing right, maybe I can start to live with myself. Moon studied him, then she nodded once. This not make you good man, but maybe make you less bad man. I'll take it, Wade said. Outside the sound of horses, multiple riders, coming fast. Tommy ran to the window. His face went white. Pa, it's Sheriff Brennan, and he's got 6 men with him. Wade stood. Moon tried to sit up, gasped at the pain. Can you walk? Wade asked her. I can try. Good. He picked up his rifle from where it leaned against the wall, checked the load. 30-30 Winchester, 7 rounds in the tube, because we're about to find out what kind of man I really am. He moved to the window, looked out. 7 horses, 7 armed men, Brennan in the lead, big and confident on a gray stallion. His brother Cole beside him, tall and thin, rifle already in his hands. The other 5 men Wade recognized. Deputies. Hired guns, men who did Brennan's dirty work for money. Brennan's voice carried across the yard, loud and arrogant. Wade McAllister, I know you got that Apache squaw in there. Send her out, or we're coming in. Wade opened the window a crack. Not enough to be an easy target, just enough to be heard. Get off my land, Brennan. Not without the Indian. She's a thief and a murderer. Wanted by the law. The only murderer I see is you. Silence. Then Brannon's voice, colder now. You calling me a liar, McAllister? I'm calling you a killer. Chief Gray Wolf didn't die in any raid. You shot him in the back and stole his gold mine. More silence. Longer this time. When Brennan spoke again, the pretense was gone. Just naked threat. You're making a big mistake. Interfering with the law. Harboring a fugitive. That's a hanging offense. So is murder, Wade said. And I've got the proof. The map you took from Grey Wolf's body. The one Moon took back. Brennan's voice rose. That map is mine. Legal claim. And that squaw stole it. Can't steal what was never yours. I'm giving you one chance, McAllister. Send her out. We'll take her peaceful. You can go back to your pathetic little ranch. Forget this ever happened. Wade looked back at Moon. She sat on the edge of the bed, holding herself upright through sheer will. Her eyes met his. No pleading, no fear, just steady determination. If you go with him, Wade said quietly, you're dead. I know. So we fight. A ghost of a smile touched her lips. We fight. Wade turned back to the window, raised his voice. She stays here, Brennan, and you can go straight to hell. The yard was silent for 3 heartbeats. Then Brennan's voice, soft and deadly. Have it your way. Boys, burn them out. The men dismounted, started gathering brush and deadwood from around the property line. Tommy grabbed his father's arm. Pa, what do we do? Wade's mind was racing. 7 men outside, 3 people inside. 1 injured woman, 1 8-year-old boy, and him. Against 7 armed men who had no reason to let any of them live. The smart thing was to surrender. Give up Moon, save himself and Tommy. But Wade had been smart once, 5 years ago, and it had cost him his soul. Tommy, he said calmly, go to the back room. Get under the bed. Stay there no matter what you hear. But Pop, now son. The boy ran. Wade looked at Moon. Can you shoot? She nodded. My father teach me. He handed her a revolver, his old Colt from his Ranger days. Don't fire unless you have to. Make every shot count. I know how to fight, she said. I know. But you're hurt. And if this goes bad, we die. She met his eyes. But we die with honor. Not on our knees. Wade felt something shift in his chest. Something that had been frozen for 5 years started to thaw. All right then. He jacked around into the Winchester's chamber. The sound was loud in the small room. Final. Let's show them what honor looks like. Outside, Brennan's voice. Last chance, McAllister. Wade didn't answer, just took position at the window, rifle ready, and waited. The first torch flew through the air, trailing smoke and sparks. It hit the barn roof. Dry hay caught immediately. Flames leaped up, hungry and bright in the morning sun. The second torch hit the chicken coop. The birds scattered, squawking. The third torch landed on the porch. Old wood. Dry wood. It caught like kindling. Brennan laughed. Come on out, McAllister. Or cook in there. Wade steadied his breathing. Picked his target. Cole Brennan standing 20 yards out, torch in hand, getting ready to throw. He squeezed the trigger. The rifle kicked against his shoulder. The sound cracked across the prairie like thunder. Cole spun, the torch falling from his hand. Blood bloomed on his left arm. Not fatal. Wade had aimed low on purpose. Warning shot. Next one goes center mass, Wade shouted. Get off my land! The other men scattered, diving for cover behind the well, the fence, the water trough. Brennan's face was purple with rage. Kill them! Kill them all! Gunfire erupted. Bullets slammed into the cabin walls, punched through windows, knocked chunks out of the door frame. Wade ducked low, worked the lever action, fired back, not trying to kill, just trying to keep them pinned. Moon moved to the other window, steadied the revolver on the sill, waited for a target. One of the deputies broke cover, running for the house, rifle raised. Moon fired once. The deputy went down, screaming, clutching his leg. Good shot, Wade said. I aim to wound, Moon replied. Today. Tomorrow maybe I aim different. The barn was fully engulfed now. Smoke poured across the yard, thick and black. The heat was intense even from 50 feet away. Wade's cattle were panicking, trying to break through the fence. His horses screamed in terror. Everything he'd built, everything he'd worked for. Burning. But none of it mattered as much as the 2 people in this cabin. The firing continued. Bullets and smoke and chaos. Wade lost track of time. Minutes or hours. Everything narrowed to load, aim, fire, load again. Then through the smoke, a voice. Not Brennan's. Older. Calmer. Brennan, stand down. The shooting stopped. Everyone froze. Into the yard rode more horses. 8 riders this time, but different. Uniforms, blue army uniforms. At the head, an officer. Older man, maybe 50, with gray hair and a stern face. Silver eagles on his shoulders. Colonel. He reined in between the cabin and Brennan's men. "What in hell is going on here?" he demanded. Brennan recovered quickly. "Colonel Harrison, we're serving a warrant. This man is harboring a fugitive." "By burning his house down?" The colonel's voice was cold. "That's not how warrants work, Sheriff." The situation escalated. He fired first. "That's a lie," Wade called from the window. "They threw torches, set fire to my barn. I defended my property." Colonel Harrison looked at the burning barn, at the scattered torches, at Cole Brennan holding his bleeding arm. "Sheriff, you're on thin ice," he said. "Fort Dodge received a complaint yesterday about an Apache woman being tortured and left to die. We came to investigate." "That woman is a criminal," Brennan protested. "She stole from me. She's a witness," Wade interrupted. "To murder. Sheriff Brennan killed Chief Gray Wolf 5 years ago, shot him in the back for his gold mine. Moon was there. She knows the truth." Brennan's face went pale. "That's ridiculous. Then why were you so desperate to kill her?" Wade asked. "Why hang her in the middle of nowhere instead of bringing her to trial? Because you knew what she'd say." Colonel Harrison's expression was thoughtful. He'd been in the territory long enough to know how things worked, to know that sheriffs could be as crooked as the criminals they hunted. "McAllister," he called, "I need you to come out, peacefully, bring the woman. Let's sort this out properly." Wade looked at Moon. She nodded. They stood. Wade helped her to the door. She was shaky but upright, determined. They walked out onto the burning porch, through smoke and heat, and down the steps. 7 rifles swung to cover them. "Lower your weapons," Colonel Harrison ordered. The rifles didn't move. He raised his voice. "I said lower them. That's an order." Slowly, reluctantly, Brennan's men lowered their guns. Harrison dismounted, walked over to Moon, saw the bandages, the visible bruises, the way she held herself like every movement hurt. "Did Brennan do this to you?" he asked. Moon met his eyes. "It's him and his brother. They hang me. Leave me to die." Harrison's jaw tightened. He turned to Brennan. "That true, Sheriff?" "She's lying. Then why are there fresh whip marks all over her back? Why does she look like she's been tortured?" Brennan had no answer. His hand moved toward his gun. Every soldier's rifle came up at once. "Don't," Harrison said quietly. "You're not fast enough." Brennan's hand stopped, but his eyes promised murder. Harrison looked at Wade. "You have proof about this murder you mentioned?" "I do." Wade pulled the map from his shirt, handed it over. "Chief Gray Wolf's map to a gold mine. Brennan killed him for it 5 years ago, during the Rio Grande incident." The colonel's face darkened. "I remember that incident. Unauthorized raid. Several rangers were dismissed." "I was one of them," Wade said. "I was there. I know what happened." Harrison studied the map, then looked at Brennan. "This true? You have a gold mine claim near here?" "I filed a legal claim," Brennan blustered. "That doesn't mean—" "Where'd you file it?" "Silver Creek Recorder's office." "When?" Pause. Too long. "To 5 years ago, right after the incident." "Convenient timing," Harrison observed. He turned to his men. "Sergeant, place Sheriff Brennan under arrest. Charge: murder, attempted murder, assault. We'll hold him at the fort pending trial." "You can't do this," Brennan roared. "I'm the law here." "Not anymore," Harrison said coldly. "You're a suspect. And until we sort out the truth, you're going to sit in a cell." The soldiers moved in. Brennan tried to resist. They weren't gentle. Within minutes, he was disarmed, hands bound, thrown onto a horse. Cole Brennan and the other deputies scattered, running before they could be arrested too. Harrison turned back to Wade and Moon. "You two will need to come to the fort, give formal statements. But you have my word, you'll be treated fairly." Wade nodded, looked at his burning barn, his scattered cattle, his ruined home. Tommy came running out, face streaked with tears, and wrapped his arms around his father's waist. Moon watched them, father and son, the kind of moment she'd never have with her own father again. But maybe, just maybe, it was enough. Enough to start believing that not all white men were monsters, that justice could still exist. That honor meant something. She looked at Wade. He looked back. And in that moment, something passed between them. Not forgiveness, not yet, but understanding, the beginning of trust. We go to Fort, she said. We tell truth. We see if white man's justice is real or just more lies. It's real, Colonel Harrison said. I'll make damn sure of it. As they prepared to leave, as soldiers put out the barn fire and gathered Wade's panicked livestock, as Tommy held his father's hand and Moon stood straight despite her pain, the morning sun climbed higher. It was the same sun that had beaten down on the Apache village 5 years ago. The same sun that had watched Wade stand by while innocent people died. But today, under that same sun, he'd made a different choice. He'd stood up, fought back, protected someone who needed protecting. It didn't erase the past, didn't bring back the dead, didn't wash the blood from his hands. But it was a start, the first step on a long road toward redemption, toward becoming the man he should have been all along. And as they rode away from the smoking ruins of his ranch, Wade McAllister felt something he hadn't felt in 5 years. Hope. The journey to Fort Dodge took 3 hours. Wade rode beside Moon, watching her sway in the saddle, seeing how she gripped the horn with white knuckles, refusing to show weakness. Tommy sat in front of him, silent, processing everything he'd witnessed. The burning barn, the gunfight, his father standing against 7 armed men. Colonel Harrison led the column, Brennan bound and sullen 2 horses back. The sheriff hadn't spoken since leaving the ranch, just stared at Wade with eyes full of murder. The fort appeared on the horizon as the sun reached its peak. Adobe walls 20 feet high, guard towers at each corner, the American flag snapping in the wind. 100 soldiers garrisoned here, the law in a lawless territory. They rode through the main gate. Soldiers stopped what they were doing to stare. At the bound sheriff, at the Apache woman with visible wounds, at the rancher with soot-stained clothes and a Winchester across his lap. Harrison dismounted in the center courtyard. Sergeant Morris, take Brennan to the stockade. Double guard. He's not to speak with anyone. Yes, sir. As soldiers hauled Brennan away, the sheriff twisted in their grip, locked eyes with Wade. This isn't over, McAllister. You hear me? This isn't over. Wade didn't respond, just watched until Brennan disappeared into the stone building that served as the fort's jail. Harrison turned to Wade and Moon. There's an infirmary. Dr. Walsh will look at your wounds, miss. He paused. I don't know your name. Moon, Wade said. We call her Moon. Miss Moon, then. Dr. Walsh is a good man. He'll treat you properly. Harrison's eyes were kind but firm. After that, I'll need statements from both of you. Everything, from the beginning. Moon nodded once, too tired to speak. The infirmary was a long building on the south side of the fort, clean white walls, the smell of carbolic acid and medicines. Dr. Henry Walsh was 62, gray-haired, with gentle hands and sharp eyes that had seen too much suffering. He took one look at Moon, and his jaw tightened. Who did this? Sheriff Brennan, Harrison said. Can you document her injuries for the trial? I can. Walsh turned to Moon. Young lady, I need to examine you. It may be painful, but I promise to be as careful as possible. Moon looked at Wade, some silent question passing between them. I'll wait right outside, Wade said. You're safe here. She nodded. Let Walsh lead her behind a privacy screen. Wade and Tommy sat on a bench in the hallway. The boy leaned against his father, exhausted from fear and adrenaline. Wade put his arm around him, feeling how small his son still was. 8 years old, yeah, too young to see what he'd seen today. Pa, Tommy whispered, are we in trouble? No, son, but we shot at the sheriff's men. We defended ourselves, that's different. Tommy was quiet for a moment, then, is Moon going to die? Wade's throat tightened. I hope not. I like her. She's brave. Yes, she is. Why did they hurt her so bad? How to explain hatred to a child? How to make him understand evil that wears a badge? Some people, Wade said slowly, do bad things because they're scared. Scared that if people know the truth, they'll lose their power. Brennan killed Moon's father. She knew about it, so he tried to kill her to keep her quiet. That's not fair. No, it's not. But we stopped him. Wade looked at his son, saw determination in those young eyes, saw the beginnings of the man Tommy would become. Yes, We did. Behind the screen, Moon's voice rose in pain. Then silence. Then Walsh's gentle murmuring. Wade closed his eyes, tried not to think about Margaret, about how she'd suffered before dying, about how helpless he'd felt. This was different. Moon would survive. Had to survive. After an hour, Walsh emerged. His face was grim. 43 separate whip marks, severe dehydration, second-degree sunburn over 30% of her body, 3 cracked ribs, extensive bruising suggesting she was beaten before being hanged. He pulled out a notebook, showed Harrison pages of detailed diagrams. Every injury documented, measured, described. If she'd hung there another day, Walsh said quietly, she would have died. Organ failure from dehydration, or shock, or both. Harrison's expression darkened. Will she be able to testify? Give her 3 days. Food, water, rest. She's strong. Stronger than anyone I've seen. Walsh shook his head in admiration. Most people would have given up, but she fought to live. Can we see her? Wade asked. Walsh nodded. She's asking for you. They found Moon lying on a clean bed covered with a white sheet. Her back was freshly bandaged, arms wrapped in clean gauze. Her face was still swollen, but some color had returned to her cheeks. She looked at Wade and Tommy, managed a small smile. White man doctor is good, she said. Her voice was stronger. He has gentle hands, like woman. Walsh chuckled. I'll take that as a compliment. Tommy approached the bed shyly. You going to be okay? Moon reached out, touched his hair. Yes, little one, I am strong like buffalo. Buffalo are strong, Tommy agreed. Then impulsively he added, I'm glad Pa saved you. Something shifted in Moon's expression. She looked at Wade over Tommy's head. Me too. Harrison cleared his throat. When you're ready, I need to take your statements. Both of you. Everything about Brennan, about what happened. I can speak now, Moon said. She tried to sit up, winced. Easy, Walsh cautioned. You need rest. I rest when truth is told. Moon's voice was firm. 5 years I wait for justice. I can wait few more minutes. Harrison pulled up chairs, took out a leather journal and a pencil. Start at the beginning. Tell me everything. Moon began to speak. Her English was rough but clear. She told about her father, Chief Gray Wolf, about the small band of Apache trying to survive on a reservation that provided nothing, about the gold mine her father had found, small but rich enough to trade for food and medicine. She told about Brennan coming to the village 7 years ago, demanding to know where the gold came from, about her father refusing to tell him, about Brennan leaving angry, making threats. Then she told about the day 5 years ago when Texas Rangers came, when her father tried to negotiate to explain they weren't raiders, when someone gave the order to fire. My mother died first, Moon said. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were distant. Shot in chest. She fall beside cook fire. I watching from hill. I scream, but no sound come out. Wade's hands clenched. He remembered that day. Remembered a woman falling. Hadn't known then that someone was watching. Someone who would carry that memory forever. Then my little brother, little bear, only 8 years old. He tried to run. Arrow hit him. Not fatal, but he fall. I think he dead too. She took a breath. My father he stand. He raise hands. He speak in English. Say we not enemies. Say we want peace. But man on horse, he shoot anyway. My father fall. Do you remember which man? Harrison asked gently. Moon's eyes focused, sharp and clear. I remember every face, but man who shoot was not Wade, was Captain with yellow hair and red face. Wade's stomach turned. Captain Thorne. The man who'd led the raid, who'd given the order to fire, who'd been dismissed from the Rangers 2 months later for excessive force. After shooting stop, Moon continued, I come down, find little bear alive, arrow in shoulder. I carry him 3 days, no food, no water except what I find. Finally reach reservation. He survive, but he never same, never talk much after that. Harrison wrote quickly, filling pages. And the gold mine? What happened to that? After father die, I go back. Many times. Watch mine. Watch to see who come. For 2 years, nobody. Then one day I see Brennan. He have map, my father's map. I know because I see my father draw it. I watch Brennan take gold, fill bags, take away. Why didn't you report it? Moon's laugh was bitter. Report to who? To white man law? Who care about dead Indian? Who believe Apache woman? Harrison had no answer for that, because she was right. In 1873, in Texas territory, no one would have listened. So I wait, Moon said. I watch, I learn white man ways, learn English, learn about law, learn where Brennan go. 5 years I watch. Finally, 1 week ago, I sneak into his office. I find map and desk, I take it back. And he caught you. His brother Cole catch me. They beat me. Brennan say I steal. I tell him cannot steal what already mine. He laugh. Say dead Indians own nothing. Then he, her voice hardened, then he have his men whip me 40 times, count each one, then hang me upside down. Say I die slow. Say vultures eat me. Say nobody find me. Nobody care. The room was silent except for Harrison's pencil scratching. But Wade find me, Moon finished. She looked at him, and he care. Harrison turned to Wade. Your turn. Tell me your part. Wade told it, all of it. His time as a Texas Ranger, the orders they received, the raid on the village, how he'd stood there, frozen while innocent people died, how he'd quit the next day, sick with guilt. He told about the 5 years since, the nightmares, the weight he carried, how he thought he could forget, could move on, but couldn't. Then he told about finding Moon, about cutting her down, about his choice to help her despite knowing it would bring trouble. Why? Harrison asked. You could have walked away, reported it anonymously, stayed out of it. Wade looked at his hands, calloused from honest work, but still stained in his mind with blood 5 years old. Because I didn't walk away 5 years ago. I stood there and did nothing, and it's haunted me every day since. He met Harrison's eyes. This was my chance to do something, to stand up, to be the man I should have been. Harrison finished writing, closed the journal. This is enough for a trial. Between your testimony, the map, and the documented injuries, we can build a solid case. When? Moon asked. 3 days. Give you time to recover. We'll hold it here at the fort. Military tribunal since Brennan attacked federal witnesses. Will he hang? Moon's voice was flat, not eager, not vengeful, just asking. If found guilty of murder? Yes. She nodded once. Good, not because I want revenge, but because justice require it. Harrison stood. You'll both stay here at the fort until the trial. We have guest quarters. You'll be safe. As he left, Wade turned to Moon. How are you really? Not the brave face, the truth. She was quiet for a moment, then, I hurt, everywhere. Body hurt from whip, heart hurt from memories. But I alive. That more than I expect when hanging there. I'm sorry, Wade said, for what happened to your family, for my part in it. I know sorry doesn't change anything, but you right, sorry changed nothing. Moon's eyes were steady on his, but actions change things. You saved my life. You risk your son's safety. You stand against 7 armed men. Those actions speak louder than sorry. Tommy yawned, fighting sleep. Wade picked him up, the boy's head drooping onto his shoulder. I should put him to bed, Wade said. Wade, Moon's voice stopped him at the door. Thank you for seeing me as person, not as enemy. You were never my enemy, Wade said quietly. None of them were. That night, Wade lay in a narrow military bed, Tommy curled beside him. The boy had cried before sleeping, overwhelmed by everything. Wade had held him, stroking his hair, murmuring reassurances. Now in the dark, Wade stared at the ceiling and thought about choices. He'd made terrible choices 5 years ago. Choices that cost innocent lives. Choices he couldn't undo. But today he'd made different choices. Better choices. It didn't erase the past, didn't wash away the guilt. But it was something. A start. Maybe redemption wasn't about erasing what you'd done. Maybe it was about doing better. Being better. Every day. Every choice. Sleep came slowly, and with it, dreams. But for once, they weren't nightmares. The trial began 3 days later in the fort's assembly hall. Soldiers lined the walls. A panel of 3 officers sat behind a long table, Colonel Harrison presiding. A military lawyer prosecuted. Brennan represented himself, refused counsel. The sheriff looked different now. Smaller, confined, the swagger gone. But the hatred remained, burning in his eyes every time he looked at Wade or Moon. The prosecutor called Moon first. She walked to the front of the room, still moving stiffly but upright, proud. She wore a simple dress provided by the fort, but she'd kept her Apache jewelry. The turquoise necklace, the copper bracelet, marks of her identity. The prosecutor was gentle, led her through her testimony, the attack on the village, her father's murder, the years of watching, the theft of the map, the torture. Brennan tried to interrupt several times. Harrison gabbled him down. When the prosecutor finished, Brennan stood for cross-examination. "You expect us to believe," he sneered, "that a savage Indian has legal rights to a gold mine? That you didn't steal that map like you've stolen everything else your kind has taken?" Moon's voice was ice. "I expect you believe nothing, because you see Apache as less than human. But laws say all men created equal. That include Apache. The law was made by white men for white men. Then law is wrong." Moon stared us down. "But even wrong laws say murder is crime, and you murder my father." "I never touched your father. You lie." Moon pulled out the piece of paper, the map. "This in my father's handwriting, his mark, his mine. You have this 5 years. How you get if you not kill him?" Brennan's face reddened. "I found it, in an abandoned camp." "Lie, I see you that day, eye on hill. See you shoot him in back. I see you take map from his body. I see you laugh. You're lying." "Why I lie? I spent 5 years looking for truth. 5 years with no life, no home, no peace. Just searching for justice." Moon's voice rose. "You think I do this for fun? You think I let you torture me for game? I do this because my father deserved justice. Because all the dead deserve truth." The room was silent. Even Brennan had no response. The prosecutor rested, called Wade next. Wade's testimony was harder. He had to admit his own guilt, his participation in the raid, his failure to act. "So you were there," Brennan's lawyer said. "You saw the village attacked. You admit you did nothing to stop it." "Yes." "Then how are you any different from my client?" Wade met his eyes. "Because I've spent 5 years trying to atone, to be better, to do right. Your client spent 5 years profiting from murder and trying to cover it up." Harrison allowed it. The prosecutor called Dr. Walsh. He presented his medical findings: the 43 whip marks, the dehydration, the cracked ribs, the evidence of systematic torture. "In your professional opinion," and the prosecutor asked, "was this punishment or attempted murder?" Walsh didn't hesitate. "Attempted murder, no question. The level of injury, the method of restraint, leaving her in the sun without water. She was meant to die, slowly and painfully." Finally, the prosecutor presented the map, called a handwriting expert from Silver Creek who confirmed the writing was Chief Gray Wolf's, showed the filing date of Brennan's claim just weeks after the village attack. The evidence was overwhelming. Brennan's defense was simple: denial. He claimed the map was his, legally obtained, claimed Moon was a liar and a thief, claimed he'd only restrained her to prevent escape, not torture her. No one believed him. The panel deliberated for 2 hours. When they returned, Harrison's face was grave. "Sheriff Hank Brennan, this tribunal finds you guilty of murder in the first degree, guilty of attempted murder, guilty of torture, guilty of theft of property." But Brennan lunged to his feet. "This is a farce. You can't—" "Silence!" Harrison's voice cracked like a whip. "You will stand and receive your sentence." Brennan stood, shaking with rage. "For the crime of murder, you are sentenced to death by hanging. Sentenced to be carried out in 7 days. May God have mercy on your soul." Soldiers grabbed Brennan as he tried to rush to the bench. He fought, screaming obscenities, promising vengeance. They dragged him out, his voice echoing in the hall until a door slammed shut. Moon sat perfectly still. No smile, no celebration, just a quiet exhalation, like she'd been holding her breath for 5 years. Wade found her afterward, standing on the fort wall, looking west toward the reservation where her brother still lived. "It's done," he said. "Yes, justice done, but it not bring them back." "No, nothing can do that." They stood in silence for a while. The sun was setting, painting the prairie in shades of gold and red. "What you do now?" Moon asked. "Go back to ranch?" Wade thought about the burned barn, the scattered cattle, the damaged house. So much to rebuild. "Eventually, but first I need to find my livestock, repair the buildings. It'll take weeks." "I help." He looked at her in surprise. "You don't have to do that." "I know, but I want to." She met his eyes. "You saved my life. I have debt." "There's no debt. In Apache way there is. Life for life, I owe you." Wade shook his head. "Then consider it paid. You testified. You helped get justice. That's enough." "No, not enough." Moon was quiet for a moment. Then, "I have nowhere to go. Reservation is full, no room for me, and I not want to go back. Too many memories." "What about your brother?" "Little Bear is safe there. Has new family, adopted by good people. He not need me anymore." Pain flickered across her face. "Maybe never need me. After what he see, after trauma, he barely speak. Even to me." Wade understood that kind of damage, the kind that broke something inside you. "I'm sorry. I want to stay. At ranch. Work for food and bed. Help rebuild. Is honest work." Wade considered. His ranch was small, he didn't need help. Could barely afford to feed himself and Tommy. But looking at Moon, seeing the hope in her eyes, the need for purpose, for belonging, he couldn't say no. "All right, but I pay you real wages, not just food and bed. $20 a month, same as any ranch hand." Moon's eyes widened. "That much?" "You'll earn it. Ranch work is hard." For the first time since he'd met her, Moon smiled, really smiled. It transformed her face, made her look younger, almost happy. "I work hard. You see, I'm not afraid of hard work." They shook hands. Her grip was strong despite the injuries. As they walked back toward the quarters, Tommy came running up. "Pa, Moon! Doc Walsh says Moon can leave tomorrow. Can she really come live with us?" "Yes," Wade said, "if she wants to." Tommy whooped and grabbed Moon's hand. "I'll teach you to ride, Dusty. And we can fish in Little Creek, and I'll show you where the best berries grow." Moon laughed at his enthusiasm. The sound was startling, beautiful. Wade realized he'd never heard her laugh before. That night, Wade wrote a letter to Margaret's sister in Missouri, told her about everything that had happened, about Moon, about the choice he'd made, about trying to be better. He didn't know if she'd understand, if anyone would understand, but he had to try to explain. To himself as much as to her. "I've done terrible things," he wrote, "things I can't undo. But maybe I can balance the scales a little. Maybe I can protect instead of destroy. Maybe I can stand up instead of standing by. This Apache woman, Moon, she's given me a chance at redemption. Not forgiveness, I don't deserve that. But a chance to do something right. To be the man you thought I was. The man I want Tommy to remember." He sealed the letter, addressed it, left it for the morning post. The execution took place at dawn 7 days later. Wade didn't attend, didn't need to see Brennan hang. But Moon went, said she needed to witness the end of it, to see that justice was real, not just words. She returned at mid-morning, face expressionless. "It's done," was all she said. 3 days after the execution, Colonel Harrison called Wade and Moon to his office. "We found something," he said grimly. "Acting on information from one of Brennan's former deputies, we excavated a site near the Arkansas River." He laid out photographs on the desk. Moon's hand flew to her mouth. 7 bodies, Harrison continued, all showing signs of murder, all buried in shallow graves. We've identified 3 of them. 2 Apache men, 1 Mexican trader. Moon's voice shook. "My brother, Running Deer. He one of them?" Harrison nodded slowly. "The youngest victim, about 20 years old, turquoise bracelet on his wrist with the marking you described." Moon collapsed into a chair. Wade held her as she wept. "Brennan didn't just kill your father," Harrison said quietly. "He'd been killing anyone who got in his way for years. Your brother must have seen something, known something. He, he go look for father, Moon whispered. Try to find what happened. I think, I think Brennan find him first. Wade felt rage and sorrow mix. So many dead, so many families destroyed. And that's why justice mattered, Harrison said. Not revenge, justice. So the truth could be known, so the dead could be honored. Last, they buried Running Deer beside his father in Apache tradition. Moon sang the death song, wept for the brother she'd carried 3 days through the desert, trying to save him, only to lose him years later to the same evil that killed their parents. But at least now, she knew. At least he could rest with his family. They left Fort Dodge that afternoon, heading back to the ranch. The journey was slower this time. Moon was healing but still weak. They stopped often to rest. As they crested the final hill, the ranch came into view. The barn was a blackened skeleton. The chicken coop destroyed. The house damaged but standing. But neighbors had come in their absence, had rounded up the cattle, mended the broken fences, cleared the worst of the debris. A note was pinned to the door. Heard what happened. This is our way of saying thank you. You did right. Signed, your neighbors. Wade stood there reading it 3 times, something tight in his chest loosening. People are good, Tommy said. Even when bad things happen, some people are good. Yes, son, they are. They spent the next weeks rebuilding. Wade and Moon worked side by side dawn to dusk, raising the new barn frame, mending fence, planting a late garden. Tommy helped where he could, fetching tools, watering the horses, learning. Moon was a good worker, strong, smart. She knew things Wade didn't: how to find water, which plants were medicinal, how to track game, how to read weather signs. In return, he taught her more English, how to keep books, how to handle cattle, how to use tools he'd taken for granted. They didn't talk much while working. Both were comfortable with silence. But in the evenings after Tommy was asleep, they'd sit on the porch and share stories. Moon told about her childhood, about her parents, about Apache traditions, about what her people had lost. Wade told about his own past, about Margaret, about the guilt he carried, about trying to be a good father despite not knowing how. You are a good father, Moon said one night. Tommy is good boy, kind, brave. That not happened by accident. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm failing him, not teaching him the right things. You teach him most important thing. You teach him to stand for what is right even when it is hard. That is everything. A month passed, then 2. The ranch took shape again. The new barn wasn't as big as the old one, but it was solid. The cattle were thriving. The garden produced enough vegetables to see them through winter. Tommy started teaching Moon to read better. She was a quick study, hungry for knowledge. Wade found her one evening with one of his old books, sounding out words, her face intense with concentration. Neighbors stopped by occasionally. Some were friendly, accepting Moon's presence. Others were suspicious, made uncomfortable by an Apache woman living on a white man's ranch. Wade didn't care what they thought. One evening in October, as the first frost touched the grass, Moon asked, "You have regrets about helping me? About what it cost?" Wade looked at his rebuilt barn, his son playing with a wooden horse he'd carved, Moon sitting beside him on the porch. "No," he said honestly, "no regrets. But you lose so much. Barn, time, money, peace. I gained more than I lost." He met her eyes. "I gained a clear conscience, a purpose, He paused, searching for the word. "A friend." Moon smiled, that smile that was becoming more frequent. "Yes, friend, that is good word." They sat in comfortable silence as the sun set. But peace never lasts forever, especially not in Kansas, especially not when you've made enemies. The trouble started on a Tuesday in November. Wade was in town for supplies. Moon and Tommy were back at the ranch working on winterizing the chicken coop. 3 riders approached. Moon saw them from a distance, recognized one of them. Cole Brennan, the sheriff's brother, the one Wade had shot in the arm. She immediately moved Tommy behind her. "Go to house, get rifle, stay inside." But Moon, now Tommy. The boy ran. Cole and his men rode into the yard. Their faces were hard, angry. Cole's left arm was still bandaged where Wade's bullet had creased him. "Well, well," Cole said, dismounting. "The savage squaw, all alone." Moon stood her ground. Wade will return soon. You should leave. We're not going anywhere, not until we settle accounts. Your brother was guilty. He died for his crimes. That is justice. Cole's face twisted. That was murder. My brother was a good man and you killed him with your lies. I not lie. I tell truth. Your brother was murderer. Shut your mouth. Cole backhanded her across the face. Moon staggered but didn't fall. Her hand moved toward the knife at her belt. I wouldn't, one of the other men said, pulling his gun. We got you 3-1. Moon's hand stopped. She was healed now, strong again. But 3 armed men were too many. What do you want? She asked, tasting blood from her split lip. Want? We want you gone, dead, like my brother. Cole pulled his own gun. Only fair, don't you think? Inside the house, Tommy watched through the window, rifle in his hands, too scared to shoot, knowing he'd miss, knowing he might hit Moon instead. Cole raised his gun, finger tightening on the trigger. Then a voice from behind them, cold as winter. Drop it, Cole. Wade stood at the edge of the yard, Winchester leveled. He'd returned early, seen the horses, come up quiet. Cole froze. I said drop it. The gun fell. You other 2. Guns on the ground, slow. They complied. No one wanted to draw on a man with a rifle already aimed. Wade walked forward, keeping the Winchester steady. Get on your horses. Ride away. Don't come back. You can't protect her forever, Cole snarled. Eventually you'll slip up, and when you do, if anything happens to her, Wade said quietly, I'll know who to come looking for, and I won't be taking you to the army. I'll handle it myself. Something in Wade's voice and his eyes made Cole step back. He recognized the look of a man who'd crossed a line and wouldn't cross back, a man who'd do what was necessary. The 3 men mounted up, rode away without another word. Moon wiped blood from her lip. They come back. I know. Maybe I should leave. Go somewhere else. Keep you and Tommy safe. Wade looked at her, really looked at her. Saw not just the Apache woman who'd been tortured and nearly killed, not just the worker who'd helped rebuild his ranch, but a person he'd come to care about. A friend. Maybe more than a friend, though he hadn't let himself think about that. No, he said, you're not leaving. This is your home now, too. And I'll be damned if I let Cole Brennan or anyone else drive you away. But Tommy is safer with you here than without you. You're the best tracker I know. The best scout. The best. He stopped, not sure how to finish. Moon understood anyway. Thank you for not giving up on me. Never, Wade said. That night after Tommy was asleep, they sat on the porch as usual. But the atmosphere was different. Charged. Something unspoken between them. Wade, Moon said finally, can I ask something? Anything. Your wife, Margaret, you still love her? The question caught him off guard. I'll always love her. She was a good woman, a good wife, but she's gone. Been gone 5 years, and I can't live in the past forever. Moon was quiet for a long time. Then, in Apache way, when husband or wife die, we mourn 1 year. After that, we live again. Love again, because life is short. We not waste it in grief. Wade looked at her, saw her clearly in the moonlight. Strong, beautiful, brave. Everything Margaret had been, but different. A survivor. A fighter. Moon, he started, then stopped. Didn't know what to say. What was appropriate? What was allowed? She turned to him. I know white man ways different. I know you may be not ready, but I want you know. I care for you, not because you saved me, but because you, good man. You try hard to be better, to make amends. That is attractive to me. Wade's heart hammered. I care for you too, more than I should, more than I expected. But people won't understand. A white rancher and an Apache woman. There'll be talk, problems. Already have problems, Moon pointed out. Already have enemies. What is few more? She had a point. Wade reached out, took her hand. Her skin was warm, calloused from work. Real. Alive. We'll take it slow, he said. See where it goes. But I want you to know, you're not just a worker here. You're not just someone I owe. He swallowed. You're important to me. Moon squeezed his hand. That is enough. For now, that is enough. They sat there, hands clasped, watching the stars, both thinking about the future, about possibilities, about second chances. The night was quiet except for the crickets and the wind through the grass. Peaceful. But in the back of Wade's mind, a worry nagged. Cole Brennan wouldn't stop. Men like that never did. They'd come back. And next time, they'd come prepared. He'd need to be ready. They'd all need to be ready. Because the past had a way of catching up. And in Kansas Territory in 1878, justice was often a matter of who drew first and shot straightest. Wade McAllister had already drawn once. For Moon. For what was right. He'd draw again if he had to, as many times as it took. Winter came early to Kansas that year. By late November, snow dusted the prairie and ice formed on Little Creek each morning. Wade, Moon, and Tommy settled into a rhythm. Working together, eating together, building something that felt almost like family. Tommy had taken to Moon completely. She taught him Apache words, showed him how to track rabbits in the snow, told him stories about coyote and raven and the old ways. He called her Moonma sometimes, a child's blend of her name and the word mother. She never corrected him. Wade watched them together and felt something warm in his chest. Something he hadn't felt since Margaret died. Hope, maybe, or belonging, but the worry never left. Cole Brennan hadn't returned, but Wade knew he would. Men like Cole didn't forgive, didn't forget. They nursed their grudges until they turned to poison. Wade kept the Winchester loaded, slept light, watched the horizon. December brought harder cold and darker news. Reverend Samuel Cooper rode out from Silver Creek on a Tuesday afternoon, his face grave beneath his wide-brimmed hat. Wade met him at the gate. "Reverend, what brings you out in this cold?" Cooper dismounted stiffly. He was 58, too old for long rides in winter, but something had driven him here. "We need to talk, inside, if you don't mind." They gathered around the fireplace. Moon poured coffee. Tommy sat on the floor, playing with the wooden soldiers Wade had carved. Cooper warmed his hands on the cup, then spoke. "There's trouble coming. Cole Brennan has been recruiting, offering $50 to any man who'll ride with him. Says he's going to bring justice to his brother's killers." "Justice?" Wade's voice was flat. "His brother was a murderer. You and I know that. The Army knows that. But Cole's telling a different story in the saloons. Says his brother was framed by a savage and her white lover. Says the Army was tricked. Says real justice needs to be done by real men." Moon's hand tightened on her coffee cup. "How many men he recruit?" 12, last I heard, maybe more." Cooper looked at Wade. "They're planning something, Ning. Don't know what or when, but I had to warn you." "Thank you, Reverend. That took courage." Cooper shook his head. "Not courage, just decency, which seems to be in short supply these days." He finished his coffee, stood. "You should leave. Take your family and go somewhere safe, maybe back east, maybe Colorado, somewhere Cole can't reach you." "This is my land," Wade said. "I won't be driven off it." "Then you're a fool, a brave fool, but a fool nonetheless." Cooper put his hat back on. "I'll pray for you, all of you, but prayer might not be enough." After he left, Wade stood at the window, watching snow fall. Moon came up beside him. "Maybe he right," she said quietly. "Maybe we should go." "And let them win? Let them think they can terrorize people into running?" Wade shook his head. "No, we stand. Even if it mean dying?" Wade looked at Tommy playing innocent on the floor, looked at Moon, strong and alive beside him. "I'll do whatever it takes to keep you both safe." "That not answer my question." "It's the only answer I have." Moon studied his face, saw the determination there, the stubbornness, the same quality that had made him cut her down when it would have been easier to ride away. "Then we stand together," she said. "All three of us." That night, Wade couldn't sleep. He lay in bed listening to the wind howl around the cabin, thinking about choices and consequences. 5 years ago, he'd stood by while innocents died, told himself he was following orders, protecting his career, staying safe. Now he had a chance to stand up, to protect, to be the man he should have been. But this time, Tommy was in danger. And Moon, the two people he cared about most in the world. Was he being brave or selfish? Was he protecting principle or feeding his need for redemption? He didn't know, But he knew running felt wrong, felt like dying inside all over again. The attack came 3 nights later. Wade woke to Dusty's warning whinny from the barn. He was out of bed instantly, rifle in hand, moving to the window. Dark figures in the yard, at least 10 of them, maybe more, surrounding the house. "Moon," he called. She appeared from the small room off the kitchen where she'd been sleeping. Already dressed, already armed with the pistol he'd given her. "Tommy, stay in your room," Wade ordered. "Under the bed. Don't come out no matter what you hear." "Pa, I'm scared." "I know, son, but you need to be brave. Can you do that?" Tommy nodded, tears on his cheeks, and crawled under his bed. Wade moved back to the window, counted heads. 12 men, all armed, Cole Brennan at their center, holding a torch. "McAllister," Cole's voice carried across the yard. "Send out the squaw and we'll let you and the boy live. You have my word." Wade didn't answer, just checked his rifle. 30 rounds in his cartridge belt. Moon had the pistol with 6 rounds against 12 men. Bad odds, but not impossible. "You've got 1 minute," Cole shouted. "Then we burn you out like you burned my brother." Moon came up beside Wade. "I should go. End this." "No." "Wade, they want me. If I go, you and Tommy live." "You think Cole will keep his word?" Wade looked at her. "The minute he has you, he'll kill you, then come back for us anyway. Men like him don't leave witnesses." "So we die fighting?" "We die trying to live. There's a difference, or my..." Moon smiled despite the fear. "You are strange white man, Wade McAllister. But good strange." The minute ended. Instead of throwing torches, Cole's men opened fire on the house. Bullets shattered every window, tore through the door. One hit the oil lamp inside and flames erupted. The same house Wade had just repaired from the last attack. Fire spread fast through the dry wood. "That's for starters," Cole yelled. "Come out or burn, McAllister." Wade aimed carefully. Cole was 70 yards away. Long shot for a rifle, especially in darkness with only torchlight. But Wade had been shooting since he was 10 years old, had trained as a ranger, had steady hands and good eyes. He squeezed the trigger. The rifle cracked. Cole spun, clutching his leg, going down hard. The other men scattered, diving for cover behind the well, the fence, the water trough. Gunfire erupted. Bullets slammed into the cabin walls, shattered windows, tore chunks from the doorframe. Wade and Moon ducked low. Returned fire. Not trying to kill, just trying to keep them pinned. The barn was fully ablaze now. Light flickered across the yard, casting wild shadows. Smoke poured into the sky. "We can't hold them forever," Moon said, reloading. "Don't have to, just have to last until help arrives." "What help?" "Reverend Cooper wouldn't warn us without doing something else. He'll have sent word to Fort Dodge. That 3 hours away. We not last 3 hours." Wade fired again, saw one of the attackers stumble. "Then we last as long as we can." Time became meaningless. Just the rhythm of shoot, reload, shoot. The cabin filled with gun smoke. Ears rang from the constant noise. Outside, men were shouting, cursing, bleeding. Cole was still alive, directing his men from behind cover despite his wounded leg. "Rush them! They can't fight us all." 3 men broke cover, running for the house. Wade dropped one with a shot to the shoulder. Moon fired twice, missed once, hit the second man in the thigh. The third made it to the porch. He kicked at the door, once, twice. The wood splintered. Wade swung his rifle like a club, caught the man across the face. Bone crunched. The man went down. But more were coming. 2 more reached the porch. The door wouldn't hold. "Moon, take Tommy. Go out the back window." "I not leave you. Do it. Get my son to safety. I'll hold him here." Moon hesitated. Wade could see the war in her eyes. Loyalty versus survival. Love versus duty. "Please," Wade said, "save him. That's all that matters." She nodded once, ran to Tommy's room. Wade turned back to the door as it crashed open. 2 men burst through. Close quarters now. No room for rifles. Wade drew his pistol. Fired. The first man fell. The second fired back. Wade felt the bullet crease his side, hot and sharp. He fired again. The man dropped. More coming through the door. 3 more. 4. Wade backed up, firing, bleeding, knowing this was the end, but determined to buy Moon and Tommy time to escape. A man lunged at him with a knife. Wade blocked, grappled, felt the blade slice across his forearm. He headbutted the man. They both went down in a tangle. Through the chaos, Wade heard gunfire from outside, but different, organized, controlled. Then voices, familiar voices. "Brennan, you're done!" Reverend Cooper's voice, and Dr. Walsh, and neighbors, a dozen men from Silver Creek who'd finally had enough of Cole's vendetta. They'd come armed, surrounded the attackers, outnumbered them. The men attacking Wade froze. Through the broken door, Wade saw his neighbors, ranchers, shopkeepers, even the blacksmith, all armed, all determined. "Stand down, Cole," Cooper shouted, "or we shoot. This ends tonight." Cole's men didn't fight, just dropped their guns and raised their hands. They'd been willing to attack a lone rancher, not willing to fight the United States Army. Soldiers swarmed the cabin, found Wade bleeding on the floor, 2 dead men beside him, found Moon and Tommy in the back room, alive and unhurt. Harrison himself helped Wade to his feet. "You all right, son?" "I've been better." Wade's side was bleeding badly, his arm too, but he was alive. "We got here as fast as we could. Reverend Cooper rode into the fort last night, said you'd need help." Looks like he was right. Cole Brennan? In custody, along with 11 others. They'll face trial for attempted murder. Wade stumbled to the back room, found Moon holding Tommy, both of them crying. He dropped to his knees, pulled them both into his arms. "It's over," he whispered. "It's over." But even as he said it, he knew it wasn't quite true. Cole would stand trial, would probably hang, but the hatred that had driven him, that lived on. In other men, in other places, the fight between those who saw Indians as human and those who saw them as savages, that fight would continue long after Wade was dead. But tonight they'd survived. Tonight that was enough. Dr. Walsh stitched Wade up at the fort infirmary, 14 stitches in his side, 7 in his arm. He'd lost blood, but would live. "You're either the luckiest man I've ever met," Walsh said, "or the unluckiest. Can't decide which." "Both," Wade said. "Definitely both." Moon sat beside his bed, holding his hand. Tommy slept in a chair, exhausted from fear and adrenaline. "You almost die," Moon said quietly. "For me, again. Wasn't for you, was for what's right." "Same thing?" Wade smiled, squeezed her hand. "Yeah, I guess it is." The trial for Cole and his men took place a week later. All 12 were found guilty of attempted murder, arson, and assault on federal witnesses. Cole received a death sentence. The others got prison terms ranging from 10 to 20 years. This time, Wade did attend the execution. Not from revenge, but to bear witness. To remember that justice, when it came at a cost. Cole stood on the gallows, hands bound, looking at Wade with hatred unchanged by his approaching death. "I hope you burn in hell with that savage," Cole spat. Wade met his eyes, felt nothing but pity. "I probably will, but not for saving him. That's the one thing I've done right." The trap dropped. Cole fell. The rope did its work quickly. Wade turned away, found Moon waiting at the back of the crowd. "It done?" she asked. "It's done." "Good. Now we go home." Home. The word settled warm in Wade's chest. Home wasn't just a place, it was people, family, belonging. They rode back to the ranch. The barn was gone again, the house damaged. But they'd rebuild. Again. Because that's what you did. You rebuilt. You kept going. Over the winter, something shifted between Wade and Moon. The shared danger had broken down the last walls. They stopped pretending they were just friends. Stopped pretending the feelings weren't there. Tommy noticed first. "Pa, are you going to marry Moon?" Wade nearly dropped the hammer he was holding. "What makes you think that?" "You look at her the way you used to look at Ma in the pictures." Out of the mouths of children. "Would that bother you if I did?" Tommy considered seriously. "No, I think Ma would want you to be happy. And Moon makes you happy. She makes me happy too." "Well, I haven't asked her yet." "You should before some other man does." Wade laughed. The thought of another man approaching Moon was absurd. She'd probably shoot him. But Tommy was right, it was time. He waited until spring. Until the new barn was built and the first flowers were blooming. until the memory of violence had faded a little. They were sitting on the porch watching the sunset when he finally spoke. Moon, I need to ask you something. Yes? You know I care about you, more than care about you. I know. And you know people will talk, will judge. A white man and an Apache woman. Some won't accept it. I know that too. But I don't care what they think. I only care what you think. What you want. He took her hand. Would you marry me? Be my wife, Tommy's mother? Help me build a life here? Moon was quiet for a long time. Long enough that Wade started to worry. Then she smiled. That smile that transformed her face. Yes, I marry you because you good man who try hard to be better. Because you love your son. Because you see me as person, not as Indian. Because, she touched his face. Because I love you. They married in May. Years later, when Little Bear came from the reservation for a visit, he brought his adopted daughter, Emily, a quiet girl of 16. Tommy and Emily grew close and eventually married, continuing the bridge between two worlds that Wade and Moon had begun. Reverend Cooper performed the ceremony on the ranch, with Tommy as witness and half the countryside in attendance. Some came to support them, some came from curiosity, some came to disapprove. Wade didn't care. Standing there, holding Moon's hands, promising to love her until death, he felt more at peace than he had in years. Maybe ever. The ranch thrived over the next years. Wade and Moon worked it together. Tommy grew strong and smart, learning from both of them. They added a daughter 2 years later, named her Margaret Morningstar McAllister, honoring both mothers. Word spread about the ranch where a white man and an Apache woman lived as equals, where Indians were welcome, where justice mattered more than skin color. Some people in Silver Creek never accepted that, refused to do business with Wade, crossed the street when they saw Moon in town. But others came to respect it, to see that maybe the old hatreds didn't have to continue, that maybe different people could build something together. Dr. Walsh became a regular visitor. So did Reverend Cooper. They'd sit on the porch in the evenings, the four of them, talking about the territory's future, about the changes coming, about hope. One evening, 5 years after the trials, Harrison himself rode out. He was retiring, leaving the Army, heading back east. But he wanted to say goodbye. You did something important here, he told Wade and Moon. You showed that redemption is possible, that people can change, can be better. I'm not sure I'm better, Wade said. I still have nightmares, still remember. Good, you should remember. Not as punishment, but as reminder. Reminder of why you stand up now, why you fight for what's right. Harrison looked at Tommy, now 13, and little Margaret, 3 years old. These children will grow up in a better world because of what you did. That's a legacy worth leaving. After Harrison left, Wade sat on the porch as the sun set, Moon beside him, their children playing in the yard, the rebuilt barn standing solid, cattle grazing, life continuing. Tommy came up, no longer a boy, but not yet a man, growing tall, serious. Pa, can I ask you something? Always. Do you regret what happened 5 years ago at the Apache village? Wade took a breath, thought about lying, about saying he'd moved past it, but Tommy deserved truth. Every day, Wade said, every single day, I regret not standing up, not stopping it, not being brave enough to do what was right. But you stood up later, for Moon, for justice. Later doesn't erase before, but it means I learned something, changed something. That has to count for something. It counts for a lot, Tommy said quietly. You taught me the most important thing a father can teach. You taught me that it's never too late to do the right thing. That even if you've failed before, you can still choose to be better. Wade's throat tightened. He looked at this boy, almost a man, who'd grown up watching his father struggle with guilt and redemption, who'd seen him make hard choices, who'd learned from it all along. Thank you, son. That means more than you know. Night fell, stars came out, the same stars that had watched over the Apache village 5 years ago, that had watched Wade's cowardice, that now watched his redemption. Moon leaned against him. What you thinking? That I'm lucky. Lucky to have survived my mistakes, lucky to have found you, lucky to have this life. Not luck. Choice. You choose to be better. Choose to stand up. Choose love over hate. That not luck. That courage. I'm not sure I'm that courageous. Moon smiled. You most courageous man I know. You admit wrong. You try to fix it. You protect what you love. That is real courage. Not fake hero courage. Real human courage. Wade kissed her forehead, pulled her close. In the house, Margaret called for her mother. Moon rose, went inside. Wade could hear her singing an Apache lullaby, the old words mixing with English, teaching their daughter both worlds. Tommy sat beside his father. They didn't speak, just sat together watching the night, comfortable in silence. This was redemption, Wade realized. Not forgiveness, not forgetting, but this. Building something good from the ruins of something terrible. Creating life where death had reigned. Choosing love where hate had flourished. It didn't erase what he'd done 5 years ago. Didn't bring back the dead. Didn't wash away the blood. But it was something, a counterweight, a balance. And maybe that was all any flawed human could hope for. To acknowledge their failures, to try to do better, to build something worth leaving behind. The years passed like water through fingers. The ranch prospered. Tommy grew into a fine man, married Emily, gave Wade and Moon grandchildren. Margaret Morningstar grew strong and beautiful, learned both Apache and English, walked between two worlds with grace. Neighbors who once scorned them came to respect them. Some came to love them. The ranch became a symbol, a place where old hatreds could be set aside, where different people could build together. Dr. Walsh visited often until he died at 70, peacefully in his sleep. Reverend Cooper preached Wade and Moon's wedding story as a sermon about redemption, about second chances, about love transcending hatred. Colonel Harrison wrote letters from back east, asking about the family, proud of what they'd built. And 17 years after that hot August day, when Wade found Moon hanging in the desert, 17 years after he made the choice that changed everything, Wade McAllister sat on his porch as the sun set, 51 years old now, gray-haired, weathered, carrying scars both visible and hidden. But at peace, Moon sat beside him, her hand in his, watching their grandchildren play. Tommy and Emily's boy Jacob, Margaret's daughter Sarah, life continuing, hope thriving. Do you ever regret it? Moon asked quietly. All the trouble, all the pain, the enemies we made, the barn burned twice, almost dying. Wade thought about it, really thought. No, he said finally, not once, because look at what we built. Look at them. He gestured to the children, laughing in the yard. Mixed blood, Apache and white. The future neither of them had dared to dream possible. We changed something, Wade continued. Maybe just this little corner of Kansas. Maybe just a few minds. But we proved it was possible. That's worth every scar. Moon squeezed his hand. You changed me. Made me believe white men could be good. Could be honorable. You changed me more, Wade replied. Gave me a reason to be better, a chance to redeem myself. You did redeem yourself. I tried, still trying every day. The sun touched the horizon, painting the sky golden red, the same colors as that August day so long ago. But this time, no torture frame, no dying woman, no hatred. Just peace, just family, just love. Tommy came out, carrying Jacob on his shoulders. Pa, Jacob wants to hear the story about how you and Moon met. Wade smiled. Again, I told him yesterday. He wants to hear it every day. Like father, like son, Moon teased. You were same at his age. Wade looked at his grandson. 3 years old, innocent eyes, the future. All right, Wade said. But this time you tell it, Tommy, I'm tired. Tommy sat down, settled Jacob on his lap, and began. It was the hottest day of summer, 1878. Your grandpa was just a simple rancher, trying to make a living and raise me after my ma died. Wade closed his eyes, listening to his son tell the story, hearing how the boy had absorbed the lessons, the importance of standing up, of doing right even when it's hard, of seeing people as people, not as different or other. Moon's head rested on his shoulder, her breathing slow and steady. After 17 years, they fit together like pieces of the same puzzle. In the distance, a hawk circled, life and death, always circling. But tonight, life was winning. Wade McAllister had been many things in his 51 years. A Texas Ranger, a coward, a widower, a father, a fighter, a husband again, a grandfather. But most importantly, he'd been a man who'd failed, recognized his failure, and spent the rest of his life trying to be better. That was his legacy, not perfection, not erasure of the past, but the honest, painful, beautiful work of redemption. The scars on his body would fade with time. The scars on his soul would never fully heal. But they were proof he'd lived, proof he'd fought, proof he'd loved. And as the sun set on the Kansas prairie, as his grandson listened to the story of courage and second chances, as Moon slept peacefully against him, Wade McAllister finally allowed himself to believe. He'd done enough. He'd been enough. The ghosts were finally quiet. And that was the greatest gift of all.